Hello, one and all in one. Welcome to a brand new episode of the ThyGap podcast. This is me being Brute, and with me is
Bogus Noog.
Bogus. Welcome to this episode once again.
Once again,
I'm going to rub it on your face that you're being welcomed here so that you feel a little out of place in your own podcast.
Thanks, bro. Thanks for contributing to that. Continuing awkwardness of how we begin our podcasts. We really need to find a better way, I think.
There is no better way than to make you feel awkward. Because, Bogus, with my authority and charm and superiority,
right,
I'm going to launch the name of today's episode. So today we are going to discuss body language. It's not easy.
Body language. It should be great use of an audio podcast.
Yes. This is the best way to showcase why body language is not easy.
Right.
So off the bat, a hygiene check to all our audience. While you're listening to this, imagine us showing it to you. Okay, like a self-defense video or something like that.
Yeah.
Because you're going to do a lot of physical activity in this episode.
Oh yeah, you're just not going to be able to see it.
Yeah.
But then your imagination will serve as a good prep for imagination. It's not easy.
It's not easy.
Which we'll do in the future.
Yes, it's close to dreams,
Yeah.
which we have already done.
Oh yeah.
But body language, it's not easy. Again, a world famous template of ThyGap, reaching new heights. Some institutes are already reaching out to us saying that they want to give an award to us.
In our imagination, yes.
In our imaginations.
Yeah.
But with our body language, we kept rejecting. Also because they asked us for some money. So we are like, no, not doing that. But one thing for sure where we do get awards is for our socials, Bogus.
Again, in our imagination. Yes.
In our imagination. Award-winning social plugins coming your way. Bogus, Instagram we are at
@_ThyGap.
Twitter and Vero we are at
@ThyGap.
And if somebody has to write a mail to us,
mindthygap@gmail.com.
Not just that, we have an award-winning social plugins 2.0, guys.
Yeah.
You can follow us or rate us or press the notification bell icon on any of the platforms which you are listening our podcast on. It can be Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Ghana, all of those things.
Right.
Even on Amazon Music.
Yeah, and leave a comment if they allow you to.
Yeah, if they allow you to. And send some money because we allow you to.
Yes.
Great. So now that the socials are away, Bogus, let's deep dive into the topic. Body language. It's not easy. And I want you to start off because you have the body, I have the language. So do the physical part first. Show our audience.
Well, to begin with, our world famous template.
Yes.
We start with the context.
Context, yes.
So when we talk about body language, bro, in Greek and Latin, no, I'm kidding.
In French and Telugu.
There's not much digging deep into this.
Yes.
I mean, we mean exactly the colloquial sense in how people understand this term.
Correct.
Body language.
Using your body to communicate.
That's about it, which we all do involuntarily.
Yeah.
All the time.
Subconsciously. We'll make it more philosophical for you. Subconsciously. We emit energies.
Yeah.
And vibrations.
Oh, yeah.
That makes people feel awkward.
Yes.
Like when you were traveling in a bus and you're a 17-year-old girl, how you feel the stare of that creep from the back.
Yes.
That is possible only because of body language.
Yes. Vibes. Energies.
Yes. So we agree upon this context. So this is what is body language.
Simple and straight. Yeah.
Correct. Now let's go into, I don't know if we can do it's not easy in this. How would you put it?
I would put it, what is not easy about body language?
Yeah. Okay, so Bogus, thanks for giving me that question.
And mainly, in our previous episode, seduction, it's not easy. Check it out. We briefly touched upon body language as a very important thing. Yeah. And that's the reason why we're going deeper into body language itself as a separate topic.
Correct. And also a few people have actually not asked us, but they told us that, hey, this is an interesting take. Right. And we are like, enough said.
Milk it.
Now we are going to milk it dry.
Yes.
Great. So, okay, just to recap a little of how we correlated seduction is you can seduce purely through your body language. How you stand, how you walk, how you sit somewhere.
Like it plays a huge role.
It plays a huge role.
You talked about the Mehrabian something.
Correct. Mehrabian rule.
Yes.
Correct.
Check it out. Yeah.
Okay. So that's why we are like, okay, fine. We'll tell you more about what body language is. Which puts us in a very difficult spot because there are a lot of things which are not easy. in body language, but we don't know if it is the right thing to start off with that. What do you think, Bogus? Do you think we start off with what is not easy, or we talk a little more about body language?
I think like the only primer to give would be that, as ThyGap podcast always does, bro.
Yes, since the beginning.
Yes, we pull back the curtain, we look under the carpet.
Yes.
People keep saying, just like they keep throwing around the word motivation.
Correct.
And we did an episode on that.
Yes, that it is all crap.
Yeah. Body language also is something that people just like to use that term a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Like your body language is very important. Like we mentioned in our previous episode, when you enter into an interview, they judge you immediately by your body language.
Correct.
So you have to improve your body language. That's as far as they go.
Right.
But okay, how do I do it? What do I need to know about body language as a dynamic as a whole? That nobody goes into as much.
Or there is not a lot of content on it.
Exactly, yeah.
So let's go into that, Bogus. Let me pick your brains on what is it about body language that you got to know.
Yeah, and what is not easy is, well, first of all, I think the awareness that our body language changes over the years.
Yeah.
The different age groups that we go through.
Yeah, the muscle mass reduces, the fat percentage increases.
Yes.
Hair loss.
And also, if we're talking about guys as an example.
We can't talk about girls. We don't know what girls go through.
We have no idea.
Yeah, let's be fair.
Exactly. They're from Venus.
Yes.
So guys, especially, they have a different body language in their adolescent years.
Mm-hmm.
A little reckless, maybe energetic, wiry, and not so sure about themselves. Clumsy, yeah. Or maybe too sure about themselves.
Yeah.
But then they come into the 20s where there's a lot of inhibitions that creep in.
Correct.
And self-doubt.
Yeah.
But also still they're not fully formed about who they are.
Yeah.
And their personality is still in a state of flux.
Correct.
Still developing. But you definitely see a difference, right? When a guy crosses 30, you definitely see a difference in the way they carry themselves.
Yeah.
The way they communicate. There's a little bit more confidence involved.
Correct.
A little bit more authority involved.
Right.
And because of that, body language automatically just changes.
Right.
So I think the first thing about why body language is not easy or not very easy to process or understand is that we have to understand it is an involuntary thing. By and large, like
it happens subconsciously.
Yeah, without us even realizing.
Yeah.
We are actually communicating so much more than what our words are saying or even what our tone is saying, which is that Mehrabian rule that you mentioned in the previous episode.
Yeah.
Very quickly, can you give us the breakup?
Yeah,
of
basically Mehrabian rule is decoding the intent of a speaker.
Right.
And it goes by 7, 38 and 55 split.
Right.
So 7% of the analysis is dependent on the words you use.
Right.
And then there's a 38% of analysis that is dependent on the tone, how you say these words and stuff. And 55% of this analysis is dependent on your body language.
Yeah.
How you're sitting, where you're looking, how interested you seem, blah, blah, blah. So that is an indication of how important it is to first have a body language and second to understand the body language.
Majority weightage.
The majority of the weightage is done. And it makes sense, right? I mean, forget about the Mehrabian rule. Your mouth does the talking.
Yeah.
Which is like one part of your body.
Yeah.
And then your rest of the body is still participating in that conversation.
Yeah.
And that's like 99% of your body, right? In terms of real estate, I'm saying.
Right.
So if your mouth is doing the talking, if you really think about it, your body must be doing something related to the talking, right?
Yes.
So how come that we don't focus on the majority and keep thinking that, oh, just make sure that I'm telling the right sentence, the articulation, yeah, which is important. I'm not denying that.
Yeah, yeah.
But there is this big real estate that we don't really care about. When we are talking, like how do we stand? What are our hands doing? What are legs doing? How's my back? Is it straight? Is my face tilted upwards? Like, one of the biggest irritating points is, I don't know if you can say this, but because I'm one of the part owner of ThyGap, I can say this.
Of course.
Is the podcaster who's called Beer Biceps.
Right.
And when he talks, I find some level of artificialness in his hosting.
Right.
Because there is a way he tilts his head and his chin is up.
Yeah.
Which is kind of condescending,
It can be interpreted that way.
It can be interpreted. Yeah, it can be interpreted that way. But it is a little condescending, even otherwise also, in terms of respecting the guest.
Okay.
Right? When you listen to an expert, or if I'm talking to an expert,
right,
I'm not going to have any part of my body where the other person might sense that I'm condescending him, or I'm kind of speaking from a higher place.
Right.
Speaking as an equal is different.
Yeah.
Versus trying to say like, answer me this.
Right. Didn't I make a wonderful point just now? That kind of thing.
It's like, now you have to appreciate me.
Yeah.
Like, what is your other choice? Like, right?
Yeah.
So those are the finer aspects. Now, I'm not saying that that person does it voluntarily. I'm not saying that that might be something that he kind of developed over a period of time. Whenever he speaks very seriously, he kind of becomes very stiff or stuff like that. And it happens to a lot of people, by the way.
Yeah.
Right? Interviews is the best place to evaluate this.
Yeah.
Like, the moment you turn on the Zoom in an interview, like, you realize that, oh, fuck, my hands are sweating. My neck is too stiff.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. My own observation of the guy is when he's talking to a guest, his head could be tilted upward at like a 40-degree or 45-degree angle.
Yeah.
But when he's facing the camera, right?
Yeah.
Like face front, the head goes 60 degrees.
Extra additional 30 degrees.
It's almost like it's trying to reach the ceiling.
Yeah, it's like I'm talking to his Adam's apple.
Yeah, literally. And I kind of picture like if this guy was ever drowning, right?
Yeah.
I would immediately, just to save his life, I would say, hey, look here.
Look at the camera.
Yeah. I'll just put a camera.
Just give one final plug.
I'll hit record. As soon as he sees the red light, right? Automatically his head starts tilting upwards. And so now he can breathe.
Yeah.
So I can save his life that way.
Yeah.
So yeah, at ThyGap, we always
think of saving people's life after we push them into the water. But you get the point, right? That's exactly what I say. Like, you get repelled by people just by their presence, or you get attracted by people just by their presence.
Yes.
And that is where you have to realize about 99% of my communication is not happening through my mouth. It's happening through my body.
Yeah.
So it is kind of like an understatement if I say that we don't talk about it enough.
Exactly.
We don't talk about it a lot.
We mention it a lot.
Ratio.
The word is thrown around. We mention it a lot, but nothing more than that. Nothing more than the
Also, it's a time where we mention about body language. It always comes after a trait.
Okay.
Like, dude, be confident. Look at your body language.
Right.
Dude, be arrogant. Look at your body language. Dude, be strong. Change your body language.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, make your body language strong. That's the exact sentence.
Right.
Make your body language confident. Right. It can't be confident, change your body language.
Right.
Because the body language comes first and then comes the qualities and the traits and attributes, right?
And also it brings up two questions at the same time. Like, okay, be confident. How do I be confident?
Yeah. And where?
Change your body language. Like how? How exactly should I
Correct.
change? So with that in mind, like we mentioned, like once a guy crosses 30, 35, automatically they get that confidence. Their sense of identity is better formed.
Yeah. I'll give that more important weightage.
Yeah. But for someone in their early 20s who will go through important interviews, who will go through situations where they're trying to impress upon someone.
Yeah, I think the latter more.
Also, yeah, but they may not have the experience yet.
Yeah.
For it to come innately. And for me, one tip I can share, which I try to use myself, is to try and pretend. The shortest route, I feel, this is the shortest cut that you can take.
Yeah.
Especially at that age, is if you can't do something, try to pretend, try to imitate. This is one of the tips that I learned from somewhere, maybe online, which actually helped me get through interviews.
It was me. I told you.
No, it was not you.
I taught you.
Know you at that point.
Bogus, you are everything because of me.
So I actually took that tip and I said, okay, fine. In real life, I can pretend a little bit. I can act. So if I'm preparing for an interview, I need to present confidence in my body language. And I need to present competence.
Yeah.
So I watched movies which had characters like that, or TV shows which had characters like that. And through that, I was visually able to see how they were moving around and how they were talking when they were trying to be authoritative or when they were trying to be charismatic and charm people. And even though I may not have understood all the inner workings of that, I could just see visually, okay, this is what this guy is doing. So can I pretend like that for 30 minutes of an interview? Can I to save my life?
Correct.
And so that's what I tried to do, and it actually worked for me. It worked wonders. So I would say at that young age, imitation and pretense, if you can do it, if you have a little bit of skill at least to imitate or pretend, I would say definitely try that out. And that,
great point.
And that would help.
You basically are saying make it till you fake it till you make it.
Fake it till you make it. But what is the making it stage? We go to the next one, which is, this is the shortest cut that we talk about.
Yeah.
But a little bit mid cut, like medium version of this is reading. Why don't you go off on that?
I'm a big fan of reading.
How do you think that helps?
Okay, and not just about reading anything.
Right.
but specifically reading fiction.
That's a even shorter cut.
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
I mean, you're kind of expediting the process
Yes.
a little if you're reading fiction.
Yes.
And I think we both agree on this point, which is a lot of us is because of what we are able to imagine about us.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like what is the kind of image we have in our head.
Mm.
Like if you have the image of this loser guy in your head,
Yeah.
and it can be because of any reason. It can be somebody telling you or like kind of inciting that idea into you,
Yeah.
or you innately don't have that confidence about yourself. Or if you are someone who you feel that you are the strongest guy, like mentally tough guy, then you develop to be that mentally tough guy, right? So what kind of fuels this is when you read a fiction book. Generally, fiction books are predominantly about a story and there are a bunch of characters and the characters run the story and it has a conclusion. Now, good authors, I'm not talking about every and any fiction book once again. Good authors have this amazing ability of depicting the character.
Yeah.
And not just by the features, but by some of the actions that these guys do.
Yeah.
Like the way they light the cigarette or how they keep wearing a jacket.
Yes.
Or there's some characteristic about them which is very physical in nature.
Yes.
And that characterization is what helps you connect to that particular character, right? So when you're reading fiction, because you're reading it, you cannot stop yourself from imagining it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So when you're imagining enough, your body has the tendency to act it out at any given point.
Yes.
So when you keep doing that, what is basically happening is you're making your body much more flexible than your natural kind of idea about it.
Right.
Like you might be lanky, you might be well built, or you might be thick, you might be fat. So based on the initial set of impressions that you have about yourself through your family, your close friends, or dude, you're fat, oh dude, you're thick, or dude, you're too thin, you develop a certain kind of, oh, this is how fat guys must be, I guess, or this is how thin guys must be. But when you start reading about this villain character or a hero character or any character, where they kind of correlate, they might say like the look of this guy is very thin, he's lanky, looks very weak, but the way he walks around is as if he owns the place. He has this air about him. There's some character you will come across who might meet your physical attributes, but their personality and their body language is different.
Yeah.
And you will get appealed to it. And when you're imagining a thin, lanky guy walking around as if he owns the place, you can put any face to it, but you have a structure. When you are able to reach that, your body starts imitating that.
Yeah.
So what you're fundamentally doing is you're imitating your own imagination.
Yeah. And an example for that is Mario Puzo wrote a book called Omerta.
Yeah.
And in Omerta, there was a character, basically the way he described this character was very charismatic guy. The effect that this individual had on people around him was that if he was to smile and talk to them in a polite way, people in front of him would feel so welcomed, like they are his friend. Like they're completely in that world and they're buddy-buddy with this guy. But the minute he changes his demeanor and he gets stern,
it becomes threatening.
He becomes very threatening.
Yeah.
Like people are very intimidated.
Right.
And he can just switch it like that.
Correct.
So, first of all, when you read this as a youngster in your early 20s or whatever, first of all, you are informed that this is possible.
Absolutely true.
You know, like you probably never even knew that this was possible.
Yeah.
So for me, until I read that character Shade, I didn't know that was possible. Then I remembered, oh yeah, I have actually come across people like this who had this effect. And if you look at a popular TV show called Better Call Saul, there's a guy called Lalo Salamanca, who's one of the villains. He has this exact trait. If he smiles, he's the most charming guy. He's cooking for people and he's laughing. But if he becomes villainish, if he becomes a little serious, then, all bets are off.
Right.
So what is immediately happening? Why is this one level above watching a TV show or watching a movie and imitating? Is because if you look at Godfather, which was a book first, then it got adapted to a movie. The movie did a great job of adapting the book, but of course, it can never come close to the book. But in the adaptation, if you have a great director, a great writer, they are able to show some character traits. But again, it is depending on your aptitude as a movie viewer for you to read those signs and interpret all that. You won't be able to analyze it. But in books, in fiction books, they spell it out for you.
Correct.
Not only like what you said, like how is this character behaving? What impact are they having on people around them? But also their own inner monologue.
Exactly. I was about to say that. Yeah. more than Godfather, right? I found this to be more impactful in Jason Bourne.
Okay.
And the reason is because of the personal dilemma that guy is going.
Right.
In the movie, you saw all this action and all,
Yeah.
but it was like not even 10% of the book. The reason I say that is that there's this guy who's having amnesia where he forgot himself.
Yeah.
But yet, he remembers these supremely high-skilled activities and he's able to perform them.
Right.
Now, the dilemma that guy is going through while performing that acts, one, knows the whole, the whole act. Like when he gets into a fight, he knows how the fight is ending, how he's going to end the fight and all. But parallelly, he's also thinking, how do I know all this? Who am I? Like, where did I learn all this skill?
Right.
If I've learned all this skill, that means somebody has taught me. If somebody has taught me, that means they know my existence.
Right.
If somebody knows my existence, blah, 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 right?
Yeah.
Now, books are the only way where you are able to actually see the whole transition of the thought, word, and deed. Which is again something that we keep coming out from ThyGap.
Yeah, Measure of Man.
Measure of Man.
Yeah.
Like 100 integrity.
Many episodes.
Everything, right?
Yeah.
And this concept is probably the most important concept. It probably is a fundamental concept for a lot of things for us as human beings. So thought, word, and deed is again the whole concept from a body language perspective. It is like, how do I think of it? How do I perceive it?
Yeah.
And how do I do it?
Right.
And every part of your body is basically involved in this process, right?
Yeah.
So books is where, especially in fiction books, I mean, Dostoevsky again is an absolute emperor in, helping you understand this.
Yeah.
Mishkin thinks that he's perplexed, blah, blah, blah. This is all his thinking. And then he's like, but he tells to Rustov that, Rustov, whatever you said, I do not completely agree. And as he says this, he picks up a book and slams it on the table.
Right.
To show his authority. And it's like the full circle, right? He thinks something, he feels an emotion, he says it in a certain way, and then he performs an act and then connects it with his thinking again. Saying that by throwing the book on the table, he tells Rustov that his disagreement is
intense.
It's non-negotiable.
Yeah.
Right? And that's how you learn that if I have to communicate disagreement, and if I say, dude, I do not agree with you, it's not enough.
Yeah.
Because you'll still have a comeback. You'll say like, but why? Have I not convinced you enough? Blah, blah. But if I disagree with you by, punching my hands on the table or clenching my fist or like just gritting my teeth and saying in a very stern voice,
right.
This is giving me an additional layer to what I want to communicate. Right?
Yeah.
Now imagine you go to a level where you don't even say that, bogus, I disagree with you. I just slam my hand on the table.
Right.
And you know that you have communicated your disagreement without even saying a fucking word. That's the power of body language, right? And that's how you kind of grow in understanding it more.
Yeah.
And that's why reading is probably the best tool that language has given us.
Yeah.
Where we can understand so much more about body language than from any other way.
Yeah, because it's a very simple math. Like earlier we said, generally guys who reach 30 or 35 plus, they have this additional sense of authority or confidence or, a little bit more matured about their own identity, etc.
Yeah.
That comes from experience.
Right.
That's where it's coming from organically.
Correct.
But if a guy in his early 20s starts reading more and more, what you're doing is you're gathering more and more experience without having to actually live it.
I would say start reading from teens.
I mean, yeah, of course, the earlier the better.
Yeah.
But without having to go through certain experiences, you can actually live those experiences.
Yeah.
For example, in Godfather, again, in the book, they talk about, there's a scenario describing a hitman going to kill certain people that the Dawn orders. And what happens, after he's done killing them, what is the aftermath of that? So basically, you don't have to kill someone in your own life. But if you read that book, you still have additional information, experience that you probably would not have gained otherwise.
Yeah.
So you're getting all these extra experiences if you're reading about a fictional character that's about blood diamond mining in South Africa or something like that. That's not something you're going to organically experience in your real life. So at an early age, you're accumulating all these experiences through reading.
Right.
Those experiences are now already modifying your personality. They're changing your personality. And because of the change in your personality, your body language is already evolving at that stage.
Correct.
So if for someone who is in their early 20s, who are accumulating experiences through these other means, by the time they reach 30, they are going to be at a different level altogether compared to someone else who's just organically looking to become more mature.
Yeah, and one of the other books which has transformed a generation in terms of their maturity is Catcher in the Rye.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically about this teenager who's trying to break free and being all independent without knowing half of the world, right? Without knowing anything.
Right.
End of the day, he comes back to his dorm or hostel, realizing that he's just still a boy.
Yeah.
Now, there are so many instances in that book which talk about that falsehood of our understanding of body language.
Mm-hmm.
Where we think that, oh, if I do this, it's enough. People will get convinced. I'll give you a simple example. He's just 17 and he's in this whole teenage dilemma, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
He goes to this bar to drink because he feels that now he's big enough to drink and he wants to be mature and stuff like that.
Right.
And he makes up his mind that I'm going to be like this, I'm going to be like that so that they don't doubt me. So he wears this oversized coat and whatever. He orders for a beer and the bartender just looks at him and gives him a smirk and like, run away from house, did we? So he, through all that persona that he tried to put up,
Right.
the bartender just figures him out immediately.
Yeah.
And that is an indication which a lot of teenagers do, you know. And when I read the book, I was like 14 or something like that. When I read the book, that was the first thing I realized that, yeah, I do this a lot.
Yeah.
I try to fit the bill, right? And I've been doing all the wrong things.
Right.
To fit the bill. I need to do a lot more to actually fit the bill. I can't fool people by trying or putting up an act.
Yeah.
Or I can only go so far by putting up an act.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that is what reading good books will do to you. It will, one, give you a reality check. Two, it will kind of show you a path of how to go about this whole thing. And three, which I think is the most important, is it helps you imitate your own self in your head.
Yeah.
Which is the best form of imitation. If you're able to imitate yourself, the version of yourself that you have in your head, then you are it.
Yeah.
Right? You don't have to rely on a role model or a father figure or anybody, right?
Yeah.
That is when you truly make your own identity.
Yeah.
And your body language is your own identity. One of the biggest identity is your body language, like in a physical representation terms.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So, like, we've looked at the beginner level of it,
Yeah.
which is watching and trying to imitate.
Correct.
Then the next level is reading.
Yeah.
And then I think maybe a parallel level to this or the next level to this would be to look at the word itself, body language. So all of the things that we've talked about so far are more mental in nature. They're more psychological in nature.
Yeah.
Which is well and good. But the word body in body language itself should clue us into the fact that there is so much involvement of the body.
The physical
body.
Yeah.
So something has to be done with the physical body for us to be able to cultivate body language as well.
Absolutely.
So the physical dimension cannot and should not be ignored, especially for men.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that, or what we mean by example, is if you look at things like sport. So if I'm a guy in my early 20s and my goal is, okay, I have an interview coming up. I want my body language to convey these things.
Yeah.
Authority, competence, confidence, all this stuff.
Yeah.
Where can I get something like that? You get it through sport.
And plastic surgery.
And you get it through things like martial arts training or anything physical, the kind of activity, or scenic school, like army cadets, the kind of training they go through. You become hardened and you actually get a frame to your body.
Yeah.
Like you don't look like a lanky mess. That's
the word is energetic.
Energetic and also like a proper definition.
Correct.
You look firm, basically. And so if you're trying to cultivate a certain body language, there's a certain physical activity that you can do for that. Let's say your goal was different. Your goal was, I want my body language to communicate charm and communicate grace and poise and all that. Then you can take up something like dance.
Jiving,
you can take up something like yoga, which takes you through that dimension of body language with which you can actually cultivate or you can communicate grace in your movements. Calmness and a sense of sure-footedness. Like dancers are very sure-footed. Even though they're nimble, you never see good dancers like miss their step. They're always like cats. They land.
Correct.
They're
agile.
They're agile. They know where to land. They know when to land.
Though, when we were talking about this, I just realized one of the points we could have said in the last episode is dancing. A good dancer is extremely seductive.
Oh, yeah.
And that's a lot of body language.
Yeah.
Like you see someone doing like teen mar, they're not seductive. They're just like energetic. You see them and like you feel like dancing.
Yeah.
But then there comes across there's a guy or a girl,
Yeah.
right? When they dance in a certain way, you get extremely seductive. You feel physically attracted to them.
Yes.
And there's so many things going around, right? There is a certain level of grace. There's a certain level of, what is the word? I forgot the word. It's a very dancey term.
Like for me, I can see a clear difference. Even though someone says, okay, popularly this person is known as a great dancer.
Yeah.
I can see they're being very mechanical. And then
Yeah,
there
they're
are
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
they're being perfect or technical in their movements.
Right.
But then there are other people who, even though they're not very technical,
They float.
just the way they move
Yeah.
is so natural and so aesthetic.
Like the difference between Michael Jackson and Elvis Presley.
Yeah.
Elvis Presley was all about freedom. It was all about like
Energy
luring you,
and-
energy, and then there is a certain level of naughtiness in his dance, right?
Yeah.
He's a little naughty,
Mischievous.
mischievous rather, right?
Yeah.
But when you look at Michael Jackson, it's just awe.
Yeah.
It's just excellence of a different part. You just feel like, I'll never dance like
It's
him.
poetry in motion.
Exactly.
Like,
Right. So dancing is like the biggest example of body language.
Hmm.
You don't have a body language. You can't save your life while like you can't dance to save your life.
Yeah.
Right? Which is why the older you get,
Mm.
the tougher it gets for you to dance.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree to you. Like it's a very important thing. Like you need to put your body through those grinds of
Yeah.
physical exertion.
And the other important thing here is when we are talking about this level 3, which is involving your body
Yeah.
and actually doing physical activity with it, according to what body language, ideally it is a good thing to cultivate all of these things, all these physical activities.
You go through all of them, like,
Yeah.
invariably.
But the important point here to underline is that this part is a practice. Like it's like a continuous thing, right? It needs to be a continuous thing.
Yeah.
It's not like, I played one game or I play once a week that's.
I went to the gym on the 1st of Jan.
Yeah.
And then I wait for the 1st of Jan again.
Yeah. That's not going to help. Like, especially with the body, which is like it's like a machine and it is like clay. Like it needs to be molded. So it takes time. And this is what happens with tennis players. Like if you want to be serious about tennis, you have to start before your teens.
Correct.
Because your body needs to adapt.
Gymnasm is more like that.
Yeah,
You can't start gymnasm at 20.
Exactly. Your bones need to adapt to that activity and then eventually you hit the peak age.
Yeah. I mean, like, I get the point.
So
like,
basically it is a process.
It's a process.
And it needs to be kept being done with regularity.
yeah. And I believe a lot more in practice. If you want to be perceived in a certain way for, say, an event which is coming after like 3 months or 4 months, you start practicing how you're going to behave on that day from like the day you got to know about the event.
Yeah,
Because
generally I would say for body language, it is every interaction that you get into, this thing you get into, you should be putting it to the test.
Yeah, like all the time.
Yeah.
And the reason why I say that is one of the things everybody has to realize is your body language, in a very physical sense, your body language is a lot about your muscle movement.
Yes.
So you need to make certain things your muscle memory, that even if you are not consciously looking at it, your muscle still knows what to do.
Exactly.
Right? So you have to code your muscles to be a certain way.
And that's where that thought, word, deed thing comes
Exactly.
in. When your thought, words and actions are in sync,
Right.
then if you're verbally communicating something, your body will follow
Automatically.
suit.
Yeah. So if your thought is to be angry,
Yeah.
then your muscles already know what to do. If your
Exactly.
thought, is talking about impressing someone or like being romantic, then your body already knows, your muscles already know what to do.
Yeah.
It's like being, it's a whole sex act, right? When you do sex for the first time, you really are just going through the motion of things. You don't really enjoy it so much.
It's more mechanical.
It's very mechanical.
Like you're figuring out where is the switch and where is the wire and all
Correct.
that. Yeah.
And after you keep doing it for some time,
Right.
you just know the body movements.
Yeah.
You go fluidic. You start realizing the importance of being fluidic, being free, rather than just like being this animalistic kind of aggression or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, it depends from person to person, but I'm giving a hypothetical example.
Yeah, and a lot of intimacy also comes through body language.
Yeah.
I don't know how people generally imagine that, but intimacy is not mostly through, verbal kind of communication, because once you're in the act, the more verbal you are, the more you're killing the vibe. You should shut your mouth.
Yeah, I mean, there is a place to be verbal in.
Exactly.
Like, stand-up comedy is that place where you want to be verbal about your sex, then that's where you go, bro.
In bed,
Open mics.
talk less,
Yeah.
do more.
Do more.
Yeah. But intimacy, that's why is very largely communicated through body language.
It's a touch.
Yeah.
It's the feel of the touch.
Yeah,
they say,
it's the
right?
way you move together.
And this is also an interesting thing. Like, as a guy, I'll speak. A lot of girls have told that it's just the way that person holds my hand.
Yeah.
And you're like, what? Like, yeah, it's the way he holds my hand. It's the way he carries me around.
Also the way he gives a hug. Like
Yeah, the
general hug,
Dude, I got to know much later.
Yeah.
Much later that apparently the way you hug someone tells a lot about what you think about that person.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
There's so much that we kind of overlook.
Like I'm willing to bet that a girl would know by the way you hug her, like casually hug her, if
there is ever a chance.
If there's ever a chance, or if this guy needs to be friend zoned immediately.
Yeah.
Or if this is a creep and I need to be worried about this guy.
Yeah. Like if you rub your hand all over her back.
Oh yeah.
While hugging.
I've had girls tell me that guys have
rubbed her back.
Ran their hands
whole real estate
from the nape to the small of her back.
Seriously,
and with a side hug, not even like a frontal hug.
In
office,
sweet lord.
Like, hey, how are you? How's it going? And then running as if he's doing a survey, like a land survey. From the nape to the.
It's a firm like it's not even like this vague.
Oh, it's not even delicate. It's like just.
Yeah, don't do that, guys. Don't do that.
She told me she was repulsed.
Obviously.
Yeah, obviously.
Dude, forget a girl. If a guy does that to me, I'll be repulsed.
Guy does that, it's
a slap. It's followed with like
violence.
A very aggressive reaction.
So that's basically the point. Like the physical aspect of it is your level 3 consider. It needs a lot of practice.
And it's a constant practice. It's practice to the smallest of things.
Yeah.
I don't know, Bogus, if you've ever done this, but they started from smallest things like me entering a cafe.
Right.
How do I enter a cafe? I'm authoritative. I'm casual. I'm laughing. I'm smiling.
Yeah.
I'm having a pleasant face. Every minute detail, There are times where I'm working alone in a cafe, right? I'm somehow every now and then I'm reminded that, dude, make sure you drink that coffee with certain charm.
Mm-hmm.
Like make it look like you're holding the cup in a very cool way because you want people to think you're cool.
Right.
Whether the people are thinking or not is secondary for me.
Exactly.
But as long as I'm like, for me, I'm giving it a shot. Okay, I'm going to be really
practicing
cool.
It.
Right.
Because at this point, listeners may feel like they want to laugh at what Brute said. And by all means, laugh at him. He's a laughable guy. It's a comedy podcast.
For crying out loud.
But the main point here is, if anyone has this dumb idea that, if I don't have to do anything now, I'll turn it on in that moment.
Yeah.
Like a switch. I'll figure out how to drink from my coffee cup in a charismatic way.
I can do it like Hrithik Roshan.
When I'm on the date with that girl, I can figure it out. No, you're never going to be able to do it. It takes quite a lot of practice for it to get settled in a rhythm.
Because ever since Bogus saw me having coffee, he's been trying to imitate me and crying out loud. The amount of coffees he spilled over on himself trying to look cool.
I've been the laughing stock of the entire town.
But it is really important, right? It is. Like that is the level you want to reach. And that only happens when you practice when it's not needed.
Yeah. The most striking example of this is something that I get to see, Brute, when I'm traveling, like in airports, etc. People that you see in airports, for example, their body language is such that they themselves don't value their life.
Yeah.
Like as if, yeah, exactly. if they're like, if you killed me now, if my plane crashed, don't worry, nothing of value has been lost. That's the way they move and they behave. And I don't understand why that has to be the case. Don't you value your life even a little bit? Don't you have any standards? I see complete lack of standards in the way their body language is.
Yeah, absolutely.
But in some people, I do see the difference.
The exact opposite where you find it, where you see like absolute conscious movement in a smoking zone. Have you ever been to a smoking zone filled with people?
Yeah.
You pick any random guy smoking.
Yeah.
There is always that element of, I'm going to be cool, taking this drag, bro.
Yeah.
I'm going to be cool flicking the ash.
Right.
Everybody tries to hold the cigarette in a different way. Everybody tries to take a drag in a different way.
Yeah.
The way they blow the smoke, they're just not doing it like I have to do it now. No, they do it with some kind of an intent, and you feel like, dude, all of these buggers are cool. That's why you feel smoking is a cool thing. Because every smoker is looking cool not because of the cigarette.
That's why a lot of people are sold on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's not because of the cigarette or the act itself. It's the way you do it.
Exactly.
Right?
And unfortunately, I've seen exceptions to this also, bro. Quite a few years back in my
Those
workplace.
Guys?
No.
The guys who even suck
worse.
on the cigarette.
Even worse than that. Quite a few years back in my workplace, there was this cute girl. Okay, that I was looking at. Like she was interesting to look at.
She's cute. She deserves to be looked. Why wasn't I told about this?
Because you don't.
I came to her office so many times. So many times.
I caught her one day at the smoking section, lighting up a cigarette and smoking it. She smoked like a bus driver.
Oh fuck.
Like a lorry driver.
Oh sweet lord.
That's it.
Huge turn off.
That was the end of it.
All the looks gone down the drain.
That was the end for me.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
So that's how much it plays.
You know the easiest, the fastest end to a cute girl not looking so cute anymore.
What?
Is when you see her dig her nose.
Oh yeah, that's something I noticed in
I'm
school.
not saying I'm not saying that like that soft dig.
Yeah.
There are few girls who like really dig.
Oh yeah.
Right? Not that guys don't do. Guys are clumsy as well.
Yeah.
Fuck.
There was another cute girl back in my school.
Yeah, the puchk. They just like put their finger in.
Oh no, I had a crush on her actually. And once, unfortunately, I happened to see her run her hand from the bottom of her nose to the top.
Oh, sweet. Yeah.
One sweeping motion where her nose goes up and she looked
shows
like a
the
pig.
nostrils. Yeah.
Where they look like a pig.
Yeah.
And I was like, I did not need to see that. I wish I did not see that. Yeah. Why did I see that? Why did you do it?
And there are few people, they might do the most disgusting thing possible.
Yeah.
But they look cool about it.
Oh, yeah.
You know, they look really cool. I've seen guys, who run their nose with their fingers, right? Like as if like you're scratching it.
Right.
But they do it so coolly.
Yeah.
And you're like, dude, if I've ever seen scratching my nose, I want to do it that way.
I'll do it this way.
I'll do it this way. Because this is the most coolest way you can scratch your nose.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Like the whole Henry Cavill Mission Impossible thing, where he locks his hands.
The arms,
he loads his hands, right?
Scene,
You have seen so many people do it. It's not that he's doing the first time ever. You've seen Sylvester Stallone do it. You've seen Arnold Schwarzenegger do it. You've seen all of them do it in one way or the other. But the way this guy did it, the face, the way he curled his fist, right? Everything. That is like poetry, right? You look at that, fuck. Dude, that's amazing. I'm sure Tom Cruise can do it the same way.
And also his folded sleeves.
That
played a huge role.
Yeah, everything, man. The whole 9 yards. And this is what we are telling, that there's no line. There's no dialogue. There's nothing. There's not even a grunt coming out of his mouth.
Yeah.
And yet, you are like charmed. You're like mesmerized by
You remember that scene still.
Yeah. And it's just about he like swinging his arms.
Yeah.
That is what we have not been doing.
Exactly, yeah.
Like 99% of the times. And imagine you turn the tables and you start doing everything with your body more than your mouth.
Yeah, it needs practice and it's worth it. The amount of time we've talked about previously in this podcast about how language can be like a magic spell if you have command over it. Look at this Mehrabian rule. 55% of it, of communication, the weightage goes to body language.
Body language, yeah.
So if you cultivate and practice body language, I mean, what a weapon it is to have.
Yeah.
You can basically get your way through life. Whatever you want, very little obstacles, just smoothly cruising through, cruise control.
Yes,
basically.
Absolutely.
But let's come to the next level of this. And this is a high level of operational body language. Like after going through these levels, as you've accumulated experiences, as your personality has been evolving, and if you ask yourself, all right, what's the next level to evolve to? Then we'll talk about the different facets of body language or the different dimensions.
I would say dimensions.
Of body language.
Dimensions of body language. One of the most underplayed factor about body language, and this is something that I really, really get annoyed about. Bogus.
Hardly anyone ever talks about this.
And this is the most annoying part, which is everybody keeps preaching about people having body language and making it a standard body language. Doesn't work.
Yeah.
It's a myth. You just can't be one idiotic fucking stoic guy everywhere.
Everywhere, yeah.
And the movies say this, the media says this, that the hero of a movie is stoic.
Right.
Or is overly romantic, even in like a dying crisis is trying to, be romantic.
Yeah.
All this nonsense. It's absolutely impractical. It's not real life stuff.
Yeah.
You have to develop different dimensions of your body language. To lay it out in an example, Bogus, like the easiest way to understand this is always go back to the times where you were spending a late evening with just you and your mother or you and your father sitting across the table.
Right.
And just try to recollect how you were presenting yourself.
Yeah.
And I would go as far as saying that's one of the most intimate times that you spend with your parents, right? They are in this relaxed mode. You are in this relaxed mode. You're just having a very casual conversation, laughing, crying, whatever, reminiscing.
Yeah.
You realize that your body is so compassionate
Empathetic. Yeah.
Right? You get it. Every word that is being uttered.
Hmm.
And then think of another time where you're with just friends, spending the whole night. Think of how your body is so free. It just wants, again, same compassionate.
Right.
It's just so happy.
Right.
It's living in the moment,
Yeah.
etc. Being with your loved one,
Hmm.
with your partner or whatever,
Yeah.
and you're having that one lonely moment, and just remember how much your body craved for that touch,
Mhm.
how much it was trying to attract, your partner to put their hands on you or like give you a kiss or whatever.
Right.
And imagine how your body was trying to react or project, what kind of energy it was trying to project.
Yeah.
Now, this has to be really, really concrete in terms of a theory in your head. That when I go to work, this is the energy that I'll emit from my body.
Exactly.
When I go to meet my friends, this is the energy. When I'm with my lover, this is the energy. When I'm with my parents, this is the energy. And even so, more importantly, when I'm with myself,
Yeah.
this is how my body language will be.
Yes.
And this is something that nobody says.
Right.
They're like, oh, you're with yourself and be happy or be in touch with yourself. For fucking, you don't even know how to be in touch with yourself. Your body has to know. So you got to practice. And which is where I say, Bogus, that why mirror practice is very important is we are always in that delusion that we are fooling everyone. We've told this point already, right?
Right.
When you stand in front of the mirror, the person in the mirror knows that, boss, no matter what you put up, I know it's a lie. Right? Which is what makes mirror practice so difficult.
Yeah.
Which is why it is so difficult to look in the eye of the person in the mirror.
And which is why it's difficult to be alone also.
Alone also.
Yeah.
A lot of people find very difficult to be alone because they're scared of
Their
what
own
they'll
company.
tell themselves.
Yeah.
Right? And if you're able to master that, if you're able to develop a certain body language when you're alone. And for me, I'll tell you my example. Whenever I'm alone, I'm trying out different things. Right? I'm putting myself in scenarios and saying, like, if I'm in TV interview, right? Somebody's interviewing me. How would I go about it?
Yeah.
If I'm in a job interview, how would I go about it?
Yeah.
If I have to set my specs or, I have to set my collar or shirt, all these things, right? Like the small aspects. This is what I mean when I say you need to have different dimensions to your body language. Sorry.
Yeah.
Because that is one of the ways you'll communicate to other people where you are at in your mental frame.
Right. So this aspect of dimensionality in body language.
New words.
Why is it important? Why does it need to be spelled out? It needs to be spelled out because body language, by and large, like we said at the beginning of the episode, it is involuntary.
Yeah.
You cannot control it most of the time.
Correct.
And you'll be fooling yourself if you think you can control it.
Yeah.
So if it is involuntary and if it has to come organically and naturally, that means psychologically or mentally, we have to create these boundaries or distinctions between these different worlds or different scenarios.
Boundaries, it's not easy.
Boundaries, it's not easy.
One of our
Check it
first
out.
episodes.
Oh yeah, one of our first It's Not Easy episodes.
Yeah.
Quite popular. Check it out. So what we mean by boundaries is when I enter my workplace, I'm in a different world.
Right.
So I need to behave and I need to present a different picture.
Correct.
Which is appropriate for this world. When I'm with my family, what is appropriate for that? When I'm with my friends, what is appropriate for that?
Yeah.
And there could be a misinterpretation by people and they think that this is, okay, you're being two-faced. You're not being honest. You're not being sincere. You're being different in different scenarios.
You're being multi-faced.
You're being multifaceted.
Yeah.
And you're being the right way according to the situation. The flip side of this is I've seen myself in the corporate workplace where people graduate from colleges and they come into the workplace for the first time. And this could be not just the corporate workplace, any professional sphere that they enter. They tend to behave in such a way that they're basically the same everywhere.
Correct.
And that is also spoken of like a positive trait.
You know, the term that they use for that? Authenticity.
Yeah.
It is bull crap.
Yeah, that's not authenticity.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're the same everywhere, if you ever experienced in your life someone stepping across lines, someone's overstepping their bounds and saying to you in a situation where they should not have said it, if you've ever experienced this is because of your body language. This is because you've not set clear boundaries for other people to understand that, oh, I can say this to Brute in this situation, but I can't say this to Brute right now. Like, for example, Brute, if you're in a workplace meeting and some guy is coming to you and yapping about some personal issues of yours and he's trying to compare, that's not the place to do it.
Right.
And if he's stepping his lines there, if you're talking to someone else at the workplace and this guy is butting into the conversation And now he's talking all filth,
Right.
which is not appropriate for the time and place. Why is that happening? That's happening because you have not set that boundary for that person to understand.
Again, I just want to highlight something here. Authenticity comes from character.
Yeah.
Right? Like having the same character or personality
Yes.
wherever you go.
Yeah.
That's a different thing. But the body language has to be appropriate to where, in which circumstance you are.
Yeah.
When you're a security guard, you might be a compassionate person. You
Yeah.
might be someone who doesn't want to hurt people. All
Right.
that. That is all your values and
Non-confrontational.
Yeah. But as a security guard, you can't just sit there smiling when people are trying to create a riot.
Yeah.
Right? You need to give out that impression that I'm going to fuck you up if you really cross the line.
Yeah.
Because my job is to not allow you to come beyond this line.
Yeah.
So you can't sit there smiling and like, okay.
Exactly.
Let's see. Because you're actually misleading the person.
Exactly.
And that's the difference. Body language is what you say without opening your mouth. When you open your mouth, be funny. Doesn't matter. When you open your mouth, be sarcastic. Crack jokes or cry all your life. Doesn't matter. But your body language will decide how the other person will open their mouth with you.
Yeah.
Right?
If you naturally have a lover boy tendency, you can't take your lover boy body language into the workplace.
Yeah.
Problems are going to happen.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's like just being that somebody who's like a sex addict.
Yeah.
And in all the right sense, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you can have like a girlfriend and all you like want to do is sex.
Right.
You can't take that body language with like a fucking hand on the crotch into this thing. You can still be a sex addict in the office.
Yeah, just
right?
be professional.
Yeah, be professional. Like you show your body that I'm not going to creep you out.
Yeah.
Don't worry. The moment I start looking at it, start scratching my balls.
This place is about work.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to focus on work.
Yeah.
If I want to talk to you about anything more than work, then I'll ask you out.
Forget, I'm not even going as far as going and talking. Even if I'm thinking about sex in the workplace, my body language is not going to show you that I'm going to think about sex.
Exactly.
That's the difference.
What I meant was, I'll ask you out. I'll take you out of the office. Then I'll
make my move. Like,
proposition.
Yeah, gag you and put you in the van.
Chloroform.
Yeah, little chloroform. Might, you might not remember a lot of it.
Yeah.
But yeah. But that's what I want to clarify.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, people think that, I'm a very loving person. I'm a compassionate person, blah, blah, blah. Therefore, my body language has to be the same wherever I go.
Yeah. And this is...
You don't have to tell people that you're compassionate in certain places because that place doesn't care whether you're compassionate or not.
Right.
The place might care about whether you can fucking do your job or not.
Exactly.
Right?
And if you're able to communicate your boundaries properly with people, if you're able to maintain a multifaceted approach to body language through, the different dimensions, then what happens is you get control over whatever situation you're in. You get control over situations.
Oh, you stole my thunder, by the way.
Where people don't misinterpret or don't step over any lines. And you don't allow people to misinterpret you.
Not just that. I'll tell you even more basic benefit. Forget about it's not your controllable. Okay, let us look at it this way. What people interpret in you, how they judge you and all is not your control. Fuck it. But with the right body language, you control your output.
Yeah.
Which is a big thing. When I'm going into a coffee shop and I want to sit alone and I go there with an agenda, right? Like I want to go there to write something or do my work, whatever it might be, or waiting for someone.
Right.
My body language is what will tell people around me whether I'm approachable, whether I'm someone who needs to be disturbed or can be disturbed, or whether somebody can have a small talk with me, whatever.
Right.
That fundamentally means you control the output.
Yeah.
You either allow or not allow by making yourself available or not available. I'm giving a very black and white kind of an example, but you get the sense, right?
Yeah.
That is what you do. And if you do not have that differentiation in your head, that, okay, I need to switch on this particular dimension of my body language in this particular place. For all you care, you might have the greatest intent, you might have the best of values or, the right personality, everything.
Right.
You will not be able to execute it. And this is what I mean when I say thought, word, deed.
Yeah.
Like imagine a Virat Kohli. He's aggressive. He's all that. But his body language is like Rohit Sharma.
Right.
And again, it's not necessary that you have a template body language.
Yeah.
The moment I say aggression, I have to be like all shouting. No.
Yeah.
You decide what your version of that is.
Exactly.
It has to suit you. You should be deciding that when I go to meet my friends, this is what I'll show.
Yeah.
If I'm in a place where I'm going to compete with certain people, this is what I'll show.
Yeah. And subconsciously, what that does to other people when they see you having a multifaceted kind of personality according to different situations, it cultivates respect actually in people. Yes, some people may think you're being two-faced or whatever, but that's very extreme minority. The subconscious reaction is people tend to cultivate respect and they tend to give you your space.
No, it's a great way of meeting high caliber people.
Yeah.
Because somebody who sees this understands the value of you having these multiple dimensions of body language.
Yeah.
Most probably, they already have it in them.
Yeah.
And they understand the value of it.
Yeah.
And it improves the chance of you developing a relationship with them.
Yes.
And when you meet better people, you become better.
Yeah. And this is the essence of basically what we were talking about in the boundaries. It's not easy episode. This is why it's very important that first, because we say thought, word, and deed, it starts with thought. So mentally, we need to recognize that these are different worlds that require a different type of behavior or different responsibility that needs to be carried out. Once that mental boundary is set, automatically your body language will follow.
Correct.
Because you can't control it. It has to be innate and it has to be organic.
It's out of practice.
It's out of practice. And that's why it needs to be practiced
a lot.
Quite
For
a lot.
years. It doesn't stop, by the way.
Yeah, it shouldn't.
Like Bogus is still spilling his coffee over, just trying to be cool while drinking coffee like brute.
Yeah.
Doesn't stop.
It never stops.
Yeah, it's like there's no saturation for perfection. So Bogus basically, in the world famous template of It's Not Easy.
Yep.
I think one of the first times where we have not explicitly mentioned these are the reasons why it's not easy.
Yeah, or why it's important.
Why it's important.
All mixed.
Yeah, it's all
it.
mixed.
Yeah.
But the whole process is that, right? Like starting from the simple things of what is body language, why do we need it, what are the hacks, how do we cultivate it, and the whole simple math of, speaking is just 1% of your body.
Yeah.
And 99% of the communication is happening to the rest of the body. If you understand that concept or that ratio, you will realize that, oh fuck, we have not even been doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Or the right way. If you've gone through the whole grind, you know that the whole process is not easy.
Yeah. And if you try to be the same person throughout your life, like if you try to be the same guy, no matter what room you walk into, then how is someone going to look at you differently as a father versus how is someone going to look at you differently as a friend versus a lover versus a competent professional? It doesn't happen. Everyone around you is going to look at you like the same jackass that you are.
Yeah. Like Bogus. So with that, we come to the conclusion of the episode. Body language, it's not easy. Once again, we are going to go through the world famous award-winning social plugins. Bogus on Instagram, we are at
@_ThyGap.
Twitter and Vero
@ThyGap.
And if somebody has to write a mail to us,
mindthygap@gmail.com.
Thank you, Bogus, for that award-winning social plugins. So with this, we conclude our episode.
Yep.
And we hope that you've imagined both of us doing all these body language-y actions.
Oh, yeah.
So like we always say, body language, it's not easy.
It is not easy.
And also, ThyGap Podcast. Subscribe.
And share.
And share with your body.